I'm Kate,
I'm Elle.
and we are down to Fae. We're wrapping up our Assassin's Blade deep dive today with The Assassin and the Empire, which means next week we're finally starting Heir of Fire with chapters 1 through 8. Very excited.
Woo!
Loved Throne of Glass, loved Crown of Midnight, our devastating little detour with Assassin's Blade. But Heir of Fire is when the story really picks up. You get to see more of the world. We've been confined pretty much to the glass castle in the first two books, and then Assassin's Blade, there's a little bit more of the world, but it's mostly in Rifthold. But we're finally going to go to Windland, and we're going to meet Fae. It's crazy that this whole time we haven't actually met other Fae.
Oh gosh, but the story really kicks off
Yeah.
starting in Heir of Fire. Not that it didn't before, but so many big things are happening. We have new characters. We cannot wait.
So many new characters.
Ugh,
but
can't wait.
First, you have this week's book rec, and it's one that you were reading on vacation. You were talking about how you read it in a weekend.
I did. I devoured it. It's a fun read. It's very interesting. It grabs your attention, and they're not super long books, so it's easy to get through.
Love that.
I think it's a finished trilogy. I didn't see anything about another book coming out, so
Okay.
I also love when a series is finished. My book rec today is Coven Caves by Kelly St. Clair.
Hate that name.
I don't love the name.
Don't love the name.
The first book is actually called First Ritual,
Okay.
but it's about a coven and they live in caves.
I mean,
but I'm like, is that the best series name? I don't know. Don't let it deter you.
It does make sense.
It is worth reading. It's just it's very on the nose.
Well, and this author sounds familiar, but I can't think of anything that
I
we've
have read other things from this author, I think, or I've read somebody else with the same name, St. Clair. I need to go back through.
Oh, you know what? Is it Scarlett St. Clair that
It could be.
does Adrian and Isolde?
Maybe.
Yeah, that might be it.
I need to go back and check because I really enjoyed reading this. So if I have other series from her, I want to make sure I've got them on my book rec list. I have so many book recs lined up for you guys.
We are cauldron blessed with your book recs. And next week I'm doing my book rec for the Book of Azrael. I'm so mad at the ending, but I'm not going to take away from your book rec. This is spotlight on you.
So we have so much to discuss coming up soon. This particular series, I want to say it is set in present day. In the beginning, she's out in the world and there's electricity and everything. But once she gets to the coven, they don't use electricity
because they're in caves.
Yeah. Well, and there's magic. It's very Harry Potter.
Okay.
Their magic does everything. And then
that's kind of like Prithian, if you think about it.
Yeah.
They don't have electricity.
Well, some of the characters in the caves, they'll reference pretty current movies. So
that's kind of weird.
I know. Basically I'm referencing this for you guys so you know that we're not wearing 20 layers of clothing and churning our own butter with candles. It's present day enough.
Well, and we've read some books Jennifer L. Armentrout will occasionally in the Covenant series. They were talking about watching Supernatural, and I was like, wait, what?
I know. So they didn't, it's present day. They just don't say anything to set the scene for you.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, and going into this world, it seems to be set on Earth. There's different territories for different types of supernaturals, like fae, werewolves, vampires, magus. They don't say witches or mages. They say magus.
Interesting. I wonder if that's Latin for something.
Probably. I felt like it was very close to mage.
Yeah.
So I assume it's very similar.
Okay.
They do have demons, but the demons are in a different realm. So I don't know.
Are they, or do we think that they are?
That's a great question. I'm going to say they
I'm
are
so smart
for
now.
Kate, you're so on the nose.
I know.
Most of the magus live in covens together, and rather than living out in the world alone, if they want to move around, they just put in a transfer to a different coven. So they kind of it's all very community driven.
So it's political almost.
It's political, but it's also safety because the humans don't know about the supernatural. So that's the other part. Is it's not like Crescent City. They are all very separate. So they keep to their communities.
Okay.
Which makes it a little bit weirder because our FMC, her name is Tempest. She's actually grown up living outside of her coven in the human world.
I'm guessing there's a big reason for that.
I know. We'd like to know, wouldn't we?
We do.
She grew up with her twin sister, mom, and her grandmother. She still learned all about her magic and the different ways and methods of a coven, but she's never met the coven.
Okay.
It's all very mysterious. Her mom and grandmother left their coven before she was born, and they refused to tell her about what happened or why they left.
Generational trauma.
Yeah, it's interesting because her grandmother is very
she's magical and she teaches her about magic, but she doesn't want her to be around.
Yeah, she's very insistent that she's aware of the different methods of the coven, the ways of
Mhm.
speaking, the different like polite phrases you're supposed to use, but
Yeah.
they don't actually go talk to them and they won't talk about it. It's just so weird.
Interesting.
So it does give a very interesting look overall about different types of magical affinity.
Mhm.
So instead of just having like elemental magic, they may have battle affinity, a
Okay.
healing affinity.
There's like
It's
different flavors.
yeah, so like a battle affinity is very broad. It can mean so many different things and so many different like traits and like magical abilities
Mhm.
that
That
would
kinda
fall into
reminds
that.
me of, oh no, A Court This Cruel and Lovely.
Hmm.
Everyone's magic is it's kind of specific to certain things that they're good at. It doesn't mean they can just do whatever. They can
Yeah,
do certain things tied to I'm
that's
trying to think
specific.
of yeah, I'm trying to think of what because there was when you said battle affinity, there's someone in that story who is really good at battle strategy.
Yeah. It
And
also makes me think of what's the
Fourth Wing.
oh, also that.
Yeah, they're kind of there's the guy that can like see things that are coming. I'm losing. I'm really bad at my words today.
It's okay. I know
But
what you're saying
the
though.
the general who's really good at battle because
Yeah.
he can see what's
He
going
has
to
a little bit of like
happen.
foresight.
Yeah.
So like I think it's more interesting because it's not just the basic, oh, we do spells or like, oh, I can work with fire. Like there's so much more
Mhm.
and they're very creative about the ways that they use this magic.
Okay.
And they can develop connections between each other. So like,
Mhm.
in a lot of series we see like people that are fated mates that they can hear each other's thoughts and they have this magical connection.
Mhm.
This is similar, but it's not quite so in depth. So our FMC, she's developed connections to each of her close family members and she can
Uh-huh.
feel like it's a magical connection and she can feel them, but it's not like I'm in your head. I can hear
Mhm.
your thoughts. It's not that level, if
Okay.
that
And
makes
it's not
sense.
there are multiple connections. It's not
Yes.
just one
So she can
mate.
have a connection that she can feel with her best friend, somebody she's emotionally close to. She has connections she can tell her family. She
Mhm.
could have a romantic connection and she can feel the difference, but she
Ooh, I
doesn't
bet she
currently.
does get one.
Well, so it's weird because when our story actually starts, our FMC Tempest, it's actually really tragic. Her family has actually just died. Her mom, her sister, and her grandmother were all killed in a car crash. But
Okay.
as the story develops, you find out they were actually murdered in this car crash.
Okay.
I know it's very very
Was she
mysterious.
supposed to be in the car?
She was in the car.
Oh, she was
She
in the
manages
oh,
to survive.
because she's not like them.
Right. Well, something is different there because there's a car crash, but then it's like a black mist comes in and is actually like of course, her memory is a little skewed. So she's got to
Mhm.
figure out what actually happened, but she can tell that they're being killed. It's not just like a car crash happened.
Oh, okay, so the car crash didn't kill them.
Right. So there's like
Okay.
murder on top of that. So
Murder.
when our series starts, she's like, I have to figure out what happened.
Mhm.
Like she's all alone in the world now because
Yeah.
she's not with the coven. She's been told not to approach the coven.
Yeah.
And then like
So she does exactly that.
yeah, well then like a month before like the story begins, she also has this random new connection pop up and she's like, who is that? So all this combined, she's like, I'm gonna have to go talk to this coven.
Uh-huh.
Her mom had made her swear she would never go there. So
Mhm.
she's expecting the worst, but she has to know what happened.
Mhm.
Also, what is this new connection? So she shows up basically at the door of this coven, expecting the worst, and they're politely like, yes, you can enter on a trial basis. And
Do
she's
they
like,
know who she is?
yes.
Okay.
And it's even more confusing as they have no idea why her mom and grandmother left. And some of them were very close to her family, so they're devastated. They're like, why did they just leave us?
Mhm.
Which just adds to the overall mystery.
Yeah.
So I'm about to give too many spoilers. Without giving spoilers, she uses this opportunity to investigate this new connection she has. She also uses the opportunity to investigate the library and scrolls and all the
Ooh.
information that this coven has to
Mhm.
try to find out more about what could have happened. The coven itself is a very interesting environment. They test everybody's magic and they
Mhm.
test your magical affinities, like your power level and your magical affinity to kind of determine your ranking within the coven.
Mhm.
It's a status thing. It's not really political. It's more like, okay, well, you're still at a novice level. You'll receive more training versus you're at an esteemed level with your magic.
It's giving kind of divergent
Yeah.
of like placing people based on
But
what
it's
they're
not,
good at.
it's like when you hear something like that in a story, it sounds like it could be something hurtful or cruel or used to demean. It's not at all.
Okay.
It's more like, we will come to you if we need help with something, if you're at an esteemed level.
It sounds great. The Coven sounds great.
I know. So she's very confused. Everything is great. The Coven is great. They're trying to help develop her training.
Mm-hmm.
It is weird, though, because the Coven has not had a new leader for 300 years.
Weird.
They have an ongoing, it's kind of a game that they compete in every week. There's like two
every
groups.
week, and for 300 years, nobody's won.
And the game it's a competition internally called Caves.
I guarantee she wins.
Which is, I can't give too many spoilers, but that's where part of the series name comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And they're literally, it's not like war. Like they set up these strategic battles, which it sounds weird.
Like war games.
Yeah, it's weird that they spend all their time doing this, but it keeps their magic sharp.
So it's training.
Yeah, they're literally training all the time without it feeling like you're in like a military school.
Okay.
So she kind of just walks into this chaos.
Mm-hmm.
None of it makes sense. She has no idea why her family left. Everything seems very nice. She doesn't know who her father is.
Oh.
That's a key issue.
Okay.
She has a new connection she has to investigate. There's a hot new man naturally that she's developing a totally different connection to that's unexpected.
Ooh.
So like it's a fun wild ride. It's very interesting. She uncovers all these deep secrets quickly that you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's well worth a weekend read.
I have an idea of what happened and who she is. I'm not going to say it. I'll ask you offline, but I feel like I already figured it out.
Okay. That's the other thing is like you get into it and you're like, we don't know your father. What kind of
interesting? We don't know any demons.
That's so
That's weird.
How did you guys get here? What is happening? Yeah,
but it still sounds interesting, and I mean, I'll fuck with it.
It's like they throw a lot of information at you kind of at once because it's so different, but it all makes sense in the scope of what's happening. And there's some very, very sexy scenes. So like on top of all this basically chaos that she just walked into, there's this hot guy with a bond forming that she has like, where did this come from? What is happening? And they're like drawn to each other. And there's some naughty things that happen.
Oh yeah, what's the spice level?
I would say it's probably like out of 5, like 4.
Wow.
4 out of 5.
Okay.
So like it's not like
nice,
super raunchy creative, but like we got some stuff happening in front of his friends, and I was like,
in front of his friends.
I know. I was like, are you guys
oh my god,
joining?
I'm gonna read it immediately.
Are we putting on a show? What just happened?
I love that.
So I kept reading, especially. I was like, what if this turns into a group thing? It didn't. But
were you reading on the plane?
Yes, I was.
Was it anybody beside you?
My sister.
Oh, okay.
She was not interested.
That's not as bad as when you're trying to read and there's a stranger and you're just like slowly
I know, I'm like
turning
dimming
away.
the lights. I'm like, what? It was a fun read.
Okay, well, you know how I was reading the Book of Azriel?
Yes.
I finished, and I gotta say, I was very disappointed in the spice level. Oh. They did not fuck once in the entire book.
Sorry, that was really shrill for you.
No, it is. That outrage is appropriate.
I feel upset over this.
Well, just based on, I don't know why the cover and the name of the book made me think there was going to be more because it was so big on book.
It looks like a naughty cover. I don't know what it is about.
I don't know what it is. It looked dark.
Maybe it's because it's dark. Like sexy. Got it.
And I'm still listening to the second. The book ends on a devastating cliffhanger. And you know how, not a cliffhanger where you can tell the story continues, a cliffhanger where it's just, you're reading and then it stops. Like you keep turning the page. I mean, I was listening, but I'm still going to recommend it next week because it was a really interesting world and he does finger her and that's nice. But there's not, and I'm trying to think, that's nice. I'm trying to think if she does anything to him. Maybe she blows him, but if she does, that's it.
Okay, but we're still waiting for.
And it was at 93%, and they weren't even together, and I was sweating. I was like,
it's a series though, right?
Yeah, there's 3 out, and I'm on the second one, and they still haven't fucked.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it until the end of the second book, and then I'm done.
Oh,
I won't. I feel like they're gonna come together maybe like halfway through, but I was very surprised at the spice level.
Well, I mean, I get it. Sometimes we read a series for the sake of like the world building and the storyline, and we love it. But like, if you're gonna tease me and act like we're gonna fuck and then you don't, I get annoyed.
I do love that it was true enemies to lovers.
Yeah,
like mortal enemies, monsters and gods that are supposed to hate each other, like that level of enemies to lovers. But are they lovers? Enemies to blowing each other.
Okay, so this better come along.
Shit better turn on. And what was the name of your book rec again?
It's Coven Caves.
Coven Caves.
I was about to say it backwards. Coven Caves by Kelly St. Clair.
Okay, I need to get better at us saying it at the beginning and end because I know
know.
everyone's probably on the side of the road trying to jot it down real quick. Not really, but
Well, we also were like, hey, that reminds me of this series. So sorry if we referenced too many other series within that one. Coven Caves by Kelly
Coven
St. Clair.
Caves.
It is a fun read and it's naughty and keeps you questioning.
And then I will talk Book of Azrael next week, but we have put it off as long as possible. Grab your tissues, your sad tissues, not your happy tissues. We ended The Assassin in the Underworld on a high note with a newly free Celaena and Sam in their very own episode of Cribs. It was happily ever after.
Until we start the final story in Assassin's Blade, The Assassin and the Empire, with a time jump to Celaena in the prison G-Wagon on the way to Endovir.
She's been in there for 2 days, so when we jump to 11 days earlier, we're 9 days away from Shawshank. I think I'm bad at math unless I'm with a group of people and we've ordered mozzarella sticks. But I'm pretty sure we're like 9 days away from whatever lands her in the prison G-Wagon.
Man, what's important to know is that we've jumped back in time.
Yes, we've jumped back in time.
So, yeah, I know it starts with something devastating and then we're suddenly going back.
You're like, oh.
Okay, got it. Celaena's at the Royal Theater, but her private box privileges have been revoked. So she's up in the rafters watching the symphony that was, until now, her and Arobyn's annual autumn tradition.
It's been a month since Celaena paid off her and Sam's debt and left the keep, and in that time, she hasn't spoken to or seen her murder daddy. She doesn't regret it, especially after that bullshit Arobyn pulled with Leifer and Benzo in The Assassin in the Underworld. Like, oops, I set up a slave trade. But she does still consider herself Otterland's assassin, and she wonders if he'll name a new successor, which even though she's left and she's starting, or, she's trying to start over and start a new life with Sam, it still bothers her. She doesn't want to lose that title.
I mean, here's the thing. When she walked out of that last conversation with Arobyn, she was like, if you come near me, I will kill you, which is probably why you haven't heard from him, because you did threaten his life. But I feel like part of that, she was mad, but she wanted him to grovel and be sorry.
Yes.
And he hasn't. And she's having to try
He did, but then he was like, oops,
but he didn't
I tricked
seem
you
to mean it. Yeah, then he was even worse.
Yeah.
But so I think she's having to try to come to terms with, did he ever love her or care about her? Like, she's in her feels. There's a lot.
And I think that Sam picks up on that a lot because when she still has reservations about leaving, and he's like, is this about Arobyn?
Yeah. Well, and even after reading that last section, I'm still a little unclear why she was afraid to leave Rifthold.
Yeah, I am too. All of this, I will say this probably 20 times in this episode, that they should have packed their shit and left immediately.
Yeah.
Because them thinking that Arobyn was just going to let them go and like, good luck, have a good life, is delusional.
Well, Celaena just didn't ever see him fully clearly. And
No.
Sam was like, hello.
Yeah.
Which we can definitely unpack as we go through this.
Oh, we will.
As a quick refresh, to further punish Celaena for freeing slaves in Skull's Bay way back in The Assassin and the Pirate Lord, Arobyn tricks her into accepting an assignment under the guise that she's helping fight slavery.
And in the process, she actually kills the 2 men trying to help the slaves and hands over the names of countless people working against the slavery trade and locations of safe houses.
Yikes.
She returned from the Red Desert ready to put in her 2 weeks, but faltered when Arobyn appeared remorseful.
And bought her pretty things.
Bought her a lot of pretty things. But that cruel ruse was what finally pushed her over the edge. And after Sam confessed his feelings for her, she paid off his debt too, and they both moved out of the keep.
I love that she paid off his debt.
I
do.
know.
But she also didn't have any bigger plans.
Mm-hmm.
Like, after everything that just happened and how Arobyn is clearly holding a grudge, did you think you're going to be able to keep working in this city?
I know.
Like, you need to go somewhere else. Anyway, back to the Royal Theater. Celaena is trying to be unbothered. She's being the unbothered queen. But
She's
trying. But Arobyn is not only there on a night that he knows is important to Celaena, he's there with Lysandra, who, if you'll remember, he won the virginity of at her bidding.
Disgusting.
So
and he
gross.
knows exactly what he's doing. And as much as I hate that character, I do love a good villain, and Arobyn is a good villain. He is cruel. He is there that night with Lysandra to fuck with Celaena.
I mean, he's a good villain because he's such a petty bitch.
Yes.
Celaena is definitely entitled to her feelings, and Lysandra is a bitch to her, but she's definitely a victim in this too. Like, she's here being used.
And Celena's been through so much, but she's at least bare minimum getting to decide when to have sex for the first time.
So true.
The parallels between Selena viewing her virginity as something important and sacred and then seeing Lysandra's sold seems intentional. Even if Selena doesn't get that yet, you just want to shake her. When she talks about her own virginity and not ready to have sex with Sam yet, and you're like, and you look at Lysandra and that doesn't.
And she didn't even get to choose who it's with.
No, it was
she may not be
literally
ready
sold.
and it's forced on her. Like the parallels in the book are wild, and it does make me sad that Selena hasn't seen the distinction yet.
Mm-hmm.
Selena returns to her apartment really. She shares it with Sam, but isn't letting him pay for half because this is the first place that's ever really been hers. She cares about Sam, but that's important to her.
And I'm in my Heir of Fire reread so that we can outline it. And it's so interesting seeing this apartment through her eyes in this book and then seeing it through other characters' eyes later on. It's sad what it was, like what it meant to her. And it was bright and it was homey when it was her and Sam, that there was love there, at least in the beginning. And then it's kind of a ghost of itself, the sheets on everything and dust. The next time we see it in Heir of Fire, it's just, and that's why I love doing Assassin's Blade and then Heir of Fire. There's so many little moments like that.
It helps to recall it if we're doing Assassin's Blade right before, and you're like, ooh, remember we just read this?
Mm-hmm.
She finds a note from Sam saying that he's gone out and not to wait up.
And there is no better way to get me to wait up than to tell me not to wait up. Oh, I'll wait up.
I mean, especially because she knows exactly where he is. The vaults.
And we visited the vaults in Crown of Midnight when Selena is looking for Nehemia's murderer grave. It's a disgusting and dangerous bar / fighting pit / brothel, all the bad things. Very meat market if you've read Crescent City. And as soon as Selena walks in and hears the cheers, she knows exactly who's in the fighting pit.
Sam is shirtless and covered in blood, but it's not his blood. He could have ended the fight a long time ago, but fighting in the pits isn't just about fighting. It's about putting on a show.
That's showbiz, baby. But Sam isn't actually in it for the glory. He and Selena haven't had a contract in a month since they burned the Arabin Bridge, which you were saying, how did you not see that coming? Yeah. So despite promising Selena he wouldn't go back, Sam is a single mom who works 2 jobs, and one of them is fighting in the pits. Like, he has to make a paycheck somewhere.
I mean, I feel bad about this whole situation because, like, I know Selena's worried for his safety, but, like, we don't have any money coming in, and you won't curb your spending.
Right.
So
exactly.
It's very hard, Sam says, given that Selena's champagne tastes on a Natty Light budget.
It would be like if all of a sudden we didn't have jobs and I would have to fight in the pits to keep up with your headband and decorative pillow budget.
It's so true. I can't help my spending on all the little details. You have to remember, though, that even though Arabin kept a detailed list of what Selena and Sam owed him, he never actually charged them for food or servants or carriages. So now that they're totally on their own, these are things that you can tell she never once thought of, and it's a big adjustment.
It's things that you don't think of until you're out on your own, and you're like, wait a minute.
Who's paying for that?
The water? Who's paying for this?
Who's to pay for gas? Okay.
And they can't get contracts. Selena doesn't want Sam fighting in the pits. So the only other option, as Sam points out, is leaving Rifthold. I wish they had left fucking Rifthold.
I mean, and the thing is, like, yes, she's a city girly. She has running water and a line of credit, and moving is expensive.
Which it is. Moving is very expensive.
But I feel like she's hiding from herself why she really doesn't want to leave.
And that's why Sam is getting frustrated and kind of pushing her to, is that the real reason why?
Yeah, I mean, and we have to remember she's 17. She's very young. This is a lot of big things happening at once. I was definitely not out in the world on my own at 17. No. Even at 18 when I was in college, my dad had to bail me out when I overdrafted buying Starbucks. It's I know.
Oh no.
That sounds so stupid, but like I was not prepared to be an adult. She's out here having to do a lot of big things all at once. It is scary. But Selena does compromise. They'll do one more contract and then they can move.
It won't be easy, especially leaving the guild and setting up a murder MLM in another place. They're going to have to make amends with Arabin before they go. They have to put in their 2 weeks notice and get his blessing, or they risk what he's doing in Rifthold, making sure they don't get contracts. He could do that wherever they go. And he's petty enough to do it. We know that.
Oh my God, he is.
Although, have you ever wondered why they didn't go to the Mute Master? He said you always have a home here, and they are contracted all over the world. They remember they would go to the Red
Yeah.
Desert and hire people.
Well, she was proud just a few chapters ago that she was like, well, they're not going to come mess with our continent because of
Right.
Arabin.
Go to
to another
Viewmaster,
continent.
slither around. Let Sam learn how to slither around.
Well, she still wants to stay on her continent, and I'm
Yes.
confused. I'm like, okay. You could actually truly have some freedom.
And he said you'd always have a home here.
Yeah. I mean, and they're allies. They're allies in this situation for you.
Mm-hmm.
Selena says that they'll go see Arabin tomorrow, but on the inside, she's wondering if she can really leave Rifthold and start over somewhere new. Sam slips his arms around her waist and tells her he doesn't care where they go. He just wants to be with her.
It really sounds like you care where we go, Sam. for him to be like, we have to go. I don't care where we go.
Yeah, but like,
I guess you just care that we go.
I think as long as it's far enough that we're out of reach of Arabin's hands, I don't think he cares.
Yes.
He just doesn't want to be under his thumb
They
anymore.
want to go somewhere.
Somewhere they're not going is past first or maybe second base.
It's honestly unclear of how far they go, just that they don't go all the way.
I know, and I know that she's 17, so I appreciate that we're not getting like
Yes.
nitty gritty on the details, but I'm still like, are we under the pants or over the pants?
Well, and I
just
think
need to
that
know.
Sarah kind of backed herself into this because it was such a big deal that she lost her virginity to Kaol. So she couldn't then write Assassin's Blade and be like, oops, she actually fucked Sam.
I know. Well, I mean, there's so many bases before that I'm like,
Are there?
there's so many opportunities before that. But again, I guess because of the age she's
Yeah.
writing about, I assume she kept it a little bit more demure
Yeah.
for our reading. But still,
It's still
I mean,
happening in my head.
they're sleeping in the same bed, but they haven't had sex. I'm like, y'all aren't grinding. You could tell me about
Y'all aren't
grinding. Like,
grinding.
you could say a few things.
Well,
Come on.
Selena thinks they have all the time in the world, and let this be a lesson. Fuck everyone you want whenever you want because they might be tortured to death. Carpe diem, carpe dick.
That should have been sad, but carpe dick.
Carpe dick.
Got it. Selena and Sam go to the keep the next day, and it's important to note that unlike Selena, Sam seems to have a positive relationship with Arabin's bodyguard, Wesley.
And I think that Selena's having a little bit of a one-sided beef with Wesley. I don't think he particularly likes her, but he doesn't hate her. I think she just gets on his nerves because she's a little cocky.
Yeah. Well, she's big. It's me against the world. She's got this attitude and this chip on her shoulder. And I'm sure Arabin has made her feel this way or made her think that she has to act this way because
Yeah.
it seems like nobody else gets it.
Mm-hmm.
Like Sam's loved her all this time. And she's like, I hated him until last
Yeah,
month.
it's all
And you're like,
one-sided
"Did you?"
beef.
Sam didn't care. Why are you so like, what is it? What's going on?
It's definitely manipulative mind games on Arabin's part. You're right.
Yeah, and it's sad because
You
she's
think of
become-
all this time that she could have actually been close to Sam, been close to Wesley, and
she's becoming aware of it too late.
right.
We also know how Sam feels about Arabin.
Right. The last time that they were in Arabin's office together was the night that he beat the shit out of Selena and made Sam watch. And now they've flown the murder coop, so the vibes are not great. It is on site.
Yikes. So Selena does the talking. We're leaving Rifthold, and we'd like to leave the guild too so we can establish a murder franchise in another city. Nothing that would take jobs or money away from you or the guild. We're just using all of your training to make money.
It's
without
very
you.
diplomatic, but it's Arabin. Like, yeah, it's a fucking course. He doesn't give an answer right away, but even when he does get the answer, he's not going to let you guys go. He's invested way too much money. Even if you've technically paid him off, it's just,
He's also greedy.
he's also greedy.
Like, okay,
And
you're
he
going to take what I
sees
taught
you
you
as
and go somewhere
property.
else? Hell no.
He asks where they're living, even though he probably knows.
Yeah.
I'm assuming when he runs into Rourke sneaking around on the roofs, that's what he was up to, right? Because there's a moment where Rourke, so they meet later on, and he's like, yeah, when the first time we met, when we were up on the roofs, and he still doesn't know
I think
why.
he was up there being a total effing creep.
Yes.
But I mean, he
watching
definitely-
them grind, he was like, are they over the clothes grinding?
Is that as good? Come on, we're stopping there? Really? I mean, like his servants moved her out to the new
I
apartment.
know, that's
There's
so
no way he
fucking
doesn't know
stupid.
where the fucking forwarding address is.
And Arabin says, back to him being manipulative creep, he says the keep feels empty without them, which is classic abuser. He has Selena questioning if it was all as bad as she's remembering it.
Ugh, it
And he
makes me-
always does that to her.
It makes me so mad. He gaslights and manipulates
Mm-hmm.
her. So thank God that Sam is there.
Yeah, because he can remind her and be like, no, it was not good. We're leaving.
I mean, the minute that he could see her walls crumbling down, Arabin would like strike, you know?
Yes.
Arabin tells them they're free to move away, but of course they are. They're asking about leaving the guild.
He's definitely fucking with them, especially Sam, and it's about to work until Selena names the price she's willing to pay to leave the guild. Arabin counters exactly how much money she has left in the bank, which again, fucking petty but funny.
I mean,
little funny.
But that just goes to show again, girl, he knows all of your business.
Yes.
You need to, like, I have no issue having my money in the bank. I'm not trying to say something like into the world, but in her situation, since he can basically see her
He
bank
has her
account,
login.
you need to be moving your shit somewhere else.
Yes.
Because now he knows everything. You have nothing to bargain with. He knows
Yeah.
exactly what you have. One final twist of the dildo, Selena thinks. But she accepts. Of course you would put that. The funds will be Venmoed immediately, and once that's done, she doesn't want to ever see or hear from Arabin or the guild again.
I know they're young and desperate, but of course Arabin wasn't going to let her walk away. This whole interaction just kept making me mad with what he's invested and who he knows he knows who she actually is.
Mm-hmm.
And he literally sees her as property, and he has not gotten his payout yet.
But yeah,
so
I mean, all the money she paid him plus interest for both of them is not enough.
It's
for
not
him.
enough.
To be fair, if I've trained you to be a part of my guild, I want your dues. Like, even if you don't live here and you've paid back whatever you think you owe me, like,
are you on Arabin's side?
no, I'm saying if I was Arabin, I'd be like, yeah, I still want to make money off of you out there doing what I've trained you to do.
Damn.
Like, I get why he's mad. That's all I'm saying. Damn. I'm not saying I'm good with him. I'm just saying that's what Kate is now like giving me looks. Okay. Well, anyway, Sam is livid that Selena has accepted the offer, but it is her money and she's paying it, which might be a little bit of the problem. He's having to rely on her.
And not to connect everything back to Air of Fire, but in this scene, she's wearing a dark blue tunic with gold embroidery along the lapels and the cuffs. And remember that when we visit the apartment, because I love little details like that when they're going through her closet. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I love shit like that.
But you see it again. That's wild. Okay. Selena's right about paying, though. They can't leave on bad terms, not if they want to settle down and keep their current occupation.
And they have to keep their current occupation because their resume is a piece of paper that says murder in Comic Sans.
That's it.
Their options are limited.
But also, they don't want the guild to follow them wherever they go.
Well, do you remember the first time you applied for a job and they asked for a resume and you're like, I'm a moderator on the Twilight Live Journal community. You don't have anything to put on there.
Bless us.
Pretty funny.
It is hilarious.
And she does feel responsible for Sam.
Yes, definitely. Selena feels responsible for Sam for what started in Skulls Bay and snowballed into the two of them leaving Arabin. She feels like it's her fault that she got him into that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he worked his entire life for something and she blames herself for taking that from him. So she's willing to empty her bank account of dollar bills. All
the dollar bills, y'all.
Not just because she cares about him, but because she feels guilty.
And guilt is such a common thread through this entire fucking series. She's always feeling guilty.
Yes.
But she walks all the way to the stupid fucking glass castle, which again is something we got wrong in trivia, which I will be holding on until my dying day. But that is the place where it was decreed that magic was outlawed, where slave labor camps were established, where the king, the man she fears above all others, lives.
Looking at the castle, everything else seems inconsequential, like gnats buzzing before the gaping maw of a creature poised to devour the world.
I know that she sees a gaping maw, but whenever she describes it as like the glass castle, I'm like, ooh, it sounds really pretty.
It sounds very Cinderella.
Very. And it's similar wording to in Crown of Midnight when she talks about the ravine in her dream. She calls it the maw of a giant beast opening to devour the world.
I feel like SJM has used that type of phrasing in her
Yes.
other series as well. It's just you get a very specific visual when she says it. Sam returns after dinner with news that he's found a client, someone willing to pay a lot to make sure it doesn't get back to the Assassin's Guild.
Red flag.
Mhm.
It's like when you book an Airbnb, but they ask you to complete the booking directly with them instead of going through the site. And you're like, why is
Oh,
that?
Okay.
Why don't you want people knowing?
What is wrong here? He doesn't know who he is. The guy booking this was wearing a hood.
And I'm picturing the Kermit meme, when he has the black hood on.
Yeah.
But also, I don't know if we actually ever find out who this was that hired them. I mean, we find out who was behind it, but Sam would have recognized that person.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if it's discussed in a later book, but I don't know if we
Unless
actually
it's one of
find
those
out.
three men. I
Or
don't
it
know.
could be
It
that.
doesn't matter. I don't know why. I was like, wait, who was
Well,
that?
because we know, SJM is really big on doing callbacks for like,
Yes.
people you don't know until
hmm
later. So regardless, Sam thinks that he might have been acting he's acting on someone else's behalf, the person requesting this. The target, they are, I'm going to say it wrong again.
Oh no, I meant for us to look this up.
I think it's Eon Jane and Rourke Farron.
I'm gonna say Mr. Jane,
The
but I
first
know
name,
Rourke.
it's IOAN. So
What is that?
I forgot.
It's something stupid.
I even have
Is it just
I
Ian?
have the Audible now, and I should have paid attention.
I meant for us to look it up. I'm sorry.
Rourke Farron. I can do that one pretty well.
Rourke. It's the biggest crime lord in Rifthold and his psycho second is all you really need to know.
Mhm.
And of course Selena has seconds. Of course Selena, I'm having a stroke. Of course Selena has questions and reservations. But if they do this, it'll be enough money to move and set themselves up somewhere else on the continent, which again is a red flag. Like Arabin knowing the exact number in your bank account and then this job landing in your lap,
but
the amount.
seriously, guys, what are the odds? You literally just said that you need this so you can leave, and it pops up.
We need a job outside the guild, and then Kermit in a hood comes up and is like, "Do you need a job outside of the guild?"
And of course, it's the worst, most dangerous one you could ask for.
Yes.
Like that's unreasonable.
Who wants to kill Ione?
I know. It seems like too obvious of a red flag, but
Right.
they still go for it. She tells Sam that she's going to think about it, right? And they kiss as if they have a lifetime of kisses to look forward to, which is sad.
And everything about this is heartbreaking, but I do want to shake them and be like, listen to Selena's gut. Stop pushing this. Don't take the job. Don't trust Arabin. Get the fuck out. Go slither around with the Mute Master. Like, go anywhere. Just think of how different it would be if they just... I know that they need money, but can you not leave with what you have and then...
Also in the desert, didn't she have a merchant that was willing to pay her a fortune
to kill a spider?
To go kill a spider?
Yeah.
The two of you can kill a fucking spider. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, do you still have your spider silk? Go sell that.
Like there's so many other opportunities you guys could take, other avenues you could take. So why can she not allow herself to leave? Like, what is going on?
It had to happen because by the time Throne of Glass starts, he's dead. So it had to happen, but it is incredibly frustrating.
But also, I guess at this point, we don't know who she truly is. And that's part of why she's still tied to this continent.
Yeah. And tied to Arabin. He's the only one who knows. Yeah. It's complicated.
Well, so in this scene, things get like one chili pepper spicy between
really
them.
like 0.5, half a chili pepper.
But she again stops, telling him that if she's only going to do this once, which I think you really only can do it once, then she wants to enjoy every step. I'm kind of like, what?
Well, by this, she means being in a relationship once, having a bond.
Yeah.
Which, when you're 17, you really do think you fall in love and you're like, I'm going to be with this guy for the rest of my life.
I saw
and now
so
he
many
works at Radio Shack.
And I was like, this is how it's going to be. But I guess also just, she's got too much stress on her mind. It's a distraction. She wants to be like just fully involved, and that's it.
We know that it's being in a relationship once. It's not having sex once. We know that she gets her knob slobbed in the Glass Castle closets.
Did you really throw that old reference?
Some people will get it.
Ugh.
But Sam is a consent king and tells her they have all the time in the world, which is at bare minimum. I don't know why I always give men so much credit for like, and he stopped.
He didn't even get frustrated with me.
He didn't even say like, oh, I'm going to have blue balls.
We do appreciate that though. Thank you. Sarah is she's cruel with all these like lifetime to kiss and all the time in the world moments though.
But imagine waking up in bed with Sam Cortland and not having sex with him. What are y'all doing?
I know. He's laying there shirtless, looking delicious and like grumbling at you. Like, what are you? Yeah, I don't understand. I do not understand.
We could never.
But instead she lay there looking at his scars, and I know that she means it like I wouldn't want him to ever have another one or have one, but like I would be so distracted by the shirtless part.
Yeah. Even when she's describing him in the pit covered in blood shirtless, I'm picturing Brad Pitt in Fight Club.
I know. I was like, I hear you.
And she's mad and I'd be like, I'm mad, but
you're going to make this up to me later. Yeah.
But also when she's looking at him thinking, I hope he never gets another scar. I have bad news for you.
I know.
He gets a few.
Oh. She daydreams about getting out of the murder business when they move. Not at first, but like maybe one day.
For Sam, she'll give up being Otterland's assassin, which is huge. She loves being famous.
I know. It's a big part of her personality right now.
It is, and it reminds me of when she's dreaming of running away with Kaol, driving his brood of children around in a white Suburban. All these men that she loves so far in the story When she's dreaming of her future with them, she's changing herself. She's not herself when she's picturing her future with them. She's still hiding parts of herself. She's still running whenever she's picturing the future with Kale or Dorian or Sam.
She's hiding parts of herself from herself.
Yes.
To leave Rifthold, the guild, and Arabin, they'll need money. So Selena agrees to take the job Sam pitched her last night. They'll start with killing Rourke Farron to weaken the chain of command, then kill his boss,
Let's just say Mr. Jane. And because Rourke is the scarier of the two, you don't want him coming after you for revenge. So it's best to take him out first.
Yeah.
After transferring that outrageous amount of money she and Arabin agreed on to his Cash App, Selena and Sam spend the day gathering information on their targets. Mr. Jane is the Pablo Escobar of Rifthold, so of course he's well protected. He has a shit ton of men, a lot of whom are positioned around his 3-story house on one of the nicest streets in the city.
You know, I'm having this thought, like, didn't you guys just get caught when you were supposed to be collecting
Good
intel?
point.
And this guy is like the Pablo Escobar. You don't think he's got people watching you?
Yes.
Like, are you doing anything different than the last time so you're not spotted?
No, I'm pretty sure they're very obvious.
I mean, they literally just she almost got fucked drowning in like nasty sewers because they weren't good at it. And so I'm like, ugh, that gave me anxiety already just reading that. I was like, collecting intel, huh? As they're, oh gosh, once they go into the vaults too and Rourke's right there, I'm like, you think he can't fucking see you? You really think in his joint he can't fucking tell you're there?
What is the cartoon where he thinks he's not being seen, but he's like big and he's tiptoeing and it's playing music? Is that Emperor's New Groove?
Emperor's New Groove, and it's Kronk, and he's like singing his own
dun,
theme
dun, dun, dun. That's what I'm picturing.
You got a really funny visual. That's exactly how I feel about them. As they're passing the house, they see Rourke Farron getting into a black carriage,
which is pretty cool. It's like pretty metal. If Selena has a rival for Rifthold's baddie, it's Rourke, who worked his way up from an orphan spy to second in command. And we will find out what happens to Rourke in, I believe, Queen of Shadows. I mean, I know in Throne of Glass or Crown of Midnight, we learn that he's died, but we don't learn the story behind
what
that.
happened. Yeah. All you need to know now is that Rourke is a sadistic fuck who enjoys torturing his victims.
You know, like as if we weren't all projecting a personality onto him. They're doing recon and Rourke, like you were saying, he looks right at her and smiles like maybe y'all need to work on being sneaky. I know in theory he doesn't, I guess he wouldn't know what Selena looks like under the mask, but she's walking with Sam and it's too sus. I picture them walking by 20 times a day and they're like.
I'm also like, you guys are both big in the underworld. You wouldn't have crossed paths at any point.
Right.
Sam is literally fighting at the vault. He fights at the vaults that Rourke owns.
That is such a good point.
He doesn't fucking know who you
are.
And
you think because they put a top hat on Sam, they're like, who's this guy?
If you guys can focus on faces and remember shit, you don't think the lords of the underworld can? Like, that's
they learn nothing from being caught. She's been caught so many times.
But I mean, just like, but not that, the methods they've learned are great and they will work well on nobility or other people that are not
that do not see them coming,
working in the underworld and had the same training. Like, you think they aren't always paying it? Well, Selena's not always paying attention, so maybe she thinks others aren't. Sam agrees the house is too well guarded, so it'll be best to catch Rourke on his way somewhere. I'll just need 2 days to figure it out.
Because Sam plans to take out Rourke, the more dangerous of the two, solo, leaving Mr. Jane for Selena. I appreciate him not wanting Selena anywhere near that sick fuck, but it doesn't make any sense of why they wouldn't do this together.
I mean, I guess if they're both supposed to be really good at their jobs and should be able to handle it, but with all the horrible things you've heard about him,
just to be safe.
You don't think you should take some precautions? That's what gets me too. The fight devolves into I found this job and you don't get to make all the rules, which also not great.
Well, it's almost like Sam doesn't enjoy being a kept little boy with Selena footing the bills, and he won't even let her spot him like from a distance where she can jump in and help if something goes wrong. So in the end, it's obviously a lot of people's fault. It's Rourke's fault, it's Arabin's fault, but it's also Sam's, which sounds kind of harsh, but I can't tell if there was a little bit of like male fragility involved, or maybe I just hate men.
Well, I don't know, because they're both used to operating alone. You know,
Right.
Erebin made it very much like we're not a team. We don't do this in groups or depend on each other. We do this ourselves. That's it. So
But did they not learn anything from Selena kept trying to do stuff on her own in the other stories, and then Sam would have to bail her out or someone would have to help
no,
her?
they've definitely not learned.
No.
But I don't know. I could see from his perspective, I would be very frustrated. Not that like she's paying for things, but just that like she won't let me help. Like
Yeah.
it's is infantilizing the word I want?
Mhm.
Like I'm a strong, independent boy and I can fight and
I'm a real boy.
I am an assassin too. Like, let me be a part of this.
Yeah.
Like, there's no and I think that she's trying to do it from a place of like, I care for you. I don't want anything to happen to you. But
Mhm.
I could see why he would be frustrated. Like,
Yeah.
I can make these big decisions too.
Mhm.
But overall, it doesn't make sense that it's just one of them.
Exactly.
But I guess at the same time, since now we know they were set up, if she had gone, would she have also died then?
I don't know what the plan was. I don't know how they could have anticipated Sam doing it on his own.
It does make you wonder, like, how Sam actually got caught. Like, we know what happened.
I
to
know,
him.
and we'll never know because that's
Yeah, because if there had been two
perspective.
of them, could one of them have saved the other one? But with the way Selena eventually gets caught, if there was gas, both of them would have been down and it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah, but
I
then
don't
it would have
know.
been harder to play off, you know? Like it would have been harder to play that he would have had to torture both of them, or it would have been obvious that it was a setup. I don't know.
Yeah, there's so many, I don't know.
But yeah, he should have let her at least spot him, bare minimum.
Yeah, I mean, for the sake of their relationship, like, this is not about you as an individual and your ability. This is about both of you making it out of here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's had a lifetime watching her strut around as Ottolin's assassin, and he's always been second best.
Those feelings don't just go away because you
Which,
fall in love with
the
someone.
other thing is he actually second best, or is it because Erebin has told him that she's number one?
I don't know about these rankings. I
To be
cannot
fair,
confirm these rankings.
I guess there was it when they were with the Pirate Lord? Selena references how she always beats him in matches. So
Yeah.
like, maybe he is second best. I mean, but that would be difficult and frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Sam loves Selena and he wants to protect her, but all of that resentfulness and bitterness, it, like you said, it doesn't just, I'm not going to say
You don't want to say it?
it doesn't just disappear like Kate's dad.
Why would you say that?
I'm sorry I said that. But it's funny.
And she can see how bothered he is, so she just drops it. You take Rourke by yourself, and I'll take Mr. Jane.
Mr. Jane.
It's another life lesson. Don't drop anything ever. Hold on to everything, including grudges, until your dying breath, because she should not have let this go.
No,
she
this
could
was
tell how much
definitely-
it bothered him, and so
you have
she
to know when to let things go and when to stand your
know
ground.
when to hold them, know when to fold them.
Yes. Cut to Selena at dance practice with Bryce and Juniper.
Selena, not really, but it would be fun. And Nest, I guess.
Well, it's important. It's an important little nugget that will come up in
Yeah.
another book.
Well, Selena taking weekly dance lessons with Madame Florine.
Mhm.
It makes, when we see her dancing with Dorian, it makes that make sense. Because you're like, oh, okay, she actually does know how to dance. She's been trained because she knew all of those royal dances.
Oh yeah.
Because if there's one thing about Erebin, he's a monster, but he creates a well-rounded curriculum. Curriculum? We also know now, when I think, was it the Red Desert episode, we talked about how he doesn't have female assassins.
Yeah.
But everyone has to take dance lessons to learn the latest popular dances. So it's funny to picture all of these assassins
Yeah,
having
like,
to
are
go
they
to
dancing with
dance
each other?
classes.
Oh, bless it. Madame Florine is a real one, though. She hasn't taken payment from Selena since she left Erebin, and she lets Selena play the piano since she no longer has one.
And that's yet another part of Rifthold that Selena will miss, and yet another character we will see again.
Selena returns to the apartment and finds Murder Daddy himself sitting on her couch.
Just man spreading all over that couch.
Gross.
Selena assumes that he got the address from the servants who brought her things over. Like, yeah, of fucking course he did. That was so stupid. Or he's been tiptoeing around on the roof.
Oh, that's
Either
so
or.
creepy. He was going to find out anyway. He's Erebin. But yeah, using the keep servants to move wasn't like the smartest
That's not
idea
very
if
smart.
you wanted him to stay out of your business.
And it's Rifthold. You were never going to be able to hide.
Yeah.
Erebin, who has just made himself at home, doesn't think it's a good idea to kill Mr. Jane. I don't know why it makes me laugh every time. Mr. Jane and Rourke Farron.
I mean, like you said, it's so many red flags. I mean, how does he know about this
Yeah, he
job?
sits down and he's like, I don't think you should take that job to kill those two guys. Wait, How do you
would
know about that?
This is one conversation that should have been private between Sam and the random person in a cloak that I feel like you should have checked who it was, but like,
And
okay.
what do you think his motivation was here? Because he
Oh,
wanted,
this is so manipulative.
but
He's
if
wanting it to, I mean, he didn't care if she did it. She hoped he did. But this is a moment so that when she's hurt, he can come in and save her. Like, I told you
I
not to
told
do
you.
this.
No, you're right.
I tried to protect you.
You're so smart.
He's so gross.
He tries to talk her out of it. Then, out of nowhere, he asks, "Do you trust Sam?"
What he really means is, have you told him the truth about where you come from?
It's a low blow. Even he follows it up. It's a low. So, all of this manipulating, he follows it up with saying, "I really do love you, Selena. Love."
Oh my gosh. That's like when you're in a relationship and the guy won't like make a decision about your relationship
And
status.
until you're leaving.
And then you leave and he's like, no, I really care for you. I love you. Like, what?
And then they do that weird cry where it's like, I hate
You're
a
like,
man
I am
cry.
uncomfortable.
I am anti-male toxicity. You can cry, just not around me. I don't want to see it. There is nothing worse than watching a man cry.
Yikes, Kate.
Oof.
The bigger issue here is this is the first time that Arabin has ever said this to Selena. So it's a definite like manipulative move.
Yeah, it's manipulative. It's making things purposely confusing for Selena, who is her entire life that's all she's ever wanted, really.
Well, she was a lone child out there with nobody to lean on but Arabin. She just wanted to be loved.
And to make it even grosser, she's literally thinking, is he talking to me as King of the Assassins, aka my boss, my father figure, or a lover? Do you love me or do you want to possess me? Do you think you're entitled to me? It's so complicated for her and he knows it and he uses that.
Well, the bigger question that she won't even admit to herself is it even about me? Or is it who I really am that you want to control and own?
Exactly. It's possessive, which is not love because love is patient and whatever. I can't remember the exact quote.
Sure. He groomed her. He wanted to control her, wanted her power, even lusted after her, maybe. But like you said, that's not love.
He's not capable of love, I don't think. He's a predator. It's the same with Lysandra. These girls that did not have anyone looking out for them, and he has used that against them their entire lives. It's so gross.
It's very conniving. He's always like looking for the next thing to take control of.
Yes.
He admits that he's been punishing her for choosing Sam over him and asks her to stay in Rifthold.
I wounded your ego, so you tricked me into killing multiple men and helping up a slave trade?
Yeah. No?
All of that because you were butthurt. You found me when I was 8 years old, and you're just now telling me that you love me because I left.
It makes me so angry. It's also the opposite of Sam, who told Selena that he loved her not for some ulterior motive, not to manipulate her or use her, but because he really loves her.
And so Selena tells Arabin to get the fuck out. It doesn't work.
Nice.
Which, if it had worked, do you think Sam would still be alive?
No.
Okay.
I think that Arabin
it was going to get rid of him.
He was just using this to be able to reel Selena back in later.
Well, and in that meeting, I wondered if, he's doing his usual tactics that have up until now worked on Selena, manipulating her, and it's Sam who steps in and he's like, no, we're leaving. And is that when he looked at Sam like, you have to get out of the way. I'm not able to control her with you around anymore.
I think the moment that she was willing to pay for Sam's debt, he was like, oh, no, this is a bigger deal. He's going to be a problem. Like, I think he always probably was not happy with whatever was developing between her and Sam. Like, but if they're just going to fuck around, then he probably would have been annoyed and like a little petty. But the fact that she was willing to pay Sam's debt and help him leave, I think that was crossing the line.
Yeah.
I mean, that's personally how I see it. Could have been something else. He seems a little crazy. But, if you thought he was butthurt before, just imagine how bruised his ego is now. She told him to get out.
Exactly. And him knowing about the job, basically begging Selena to stay, these are all red flags that should have had Selena and Sam leaving Rifthold that night. Arabin, he is not just going to let you go, especially after he declares his air quote love. Like, there is nothing more dangerous than a male whose ego has been bruised.
Right. And I mean, we have so much more world experience and we've also read future books, so we know what's going to happen. I guess she knows that something's not right, but she's not willing to admit how bad it could be. And it makes me so anxious just reading what's to come. I didn't want to keep going because it's just going to get worse. She leaves to meet Sam at the Black Signet Tavern.
Well, and that made me wonder if she's a Warhammer fan.
Who,
Sarah?
Sarah? SJM?
Yeah, because that is a pirate. The name of that tavern is a pirate, and I
Oh.
think that game was partly inspired by Lord of the Rings. So I wondered if she played. But then it made me think about House of Flame and Shadow, because Warhammer 40K, there was a lot of blending of sci-fi and fantasy,
Okay.
which was, yeah. I'm probably just projecting onto Sarah.
No,
but
with SJM, any of that's possible since she loves all of the same
Yeah.
fantasy stuff. But anyways,
anyways,
Sam is telling Selena all the info that he's gathered about Mr. Jane and Rourke.
why
Although-
do we say Mr.
I don't know.
Mr. Jane?
Just because he's become this like weird figure now.
He's like a cartoon. I'm picturing like the peanut that wears the glasses, like the one glass. Mr. Jane.
He's like so sophisticated now that we put Mr. in front of it. Just because we can't say your first name. I'm sorry, sir.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, sir.
The environment is so weird because they're sitting in like a tea room with these fancy women. Like the
I
women are all
know.
sitting around them gossiping about the crown prince going on
Mhm.
holiday to the Syrian coast.
Because those were way simpler times for little Dory.
Ugh.
The loads he was blowing then were not magical.
Love that.
Selena, by the way, does not tell Sam about Arabin's jump scare, but when they get home, the apartment doesn't really feel like hers anymore. Like he's tainted it by sitting his taint on her new couch. Sam notices there's nothing worse than a taint that's tainting.
Ugh.
Sam notices something is off, and when he's like, "What the fuck is up, Kyle?" she asks for his deepest, darkest secret.
I really,
Okay.
one, that's weird. It's a weird transition. And I also thought this was going somewhere. I was very disappointed in Selena.
Right.
The
I
only-
know, you think that she's about to tell him.
Like, what are you so afraid of? He's the one person. I mean, I guess because now he's the only person she can really trust. She's afraid of him abandoning her. But I
But
really
she
feel
knows
like
Sam would never.
he's the one person that wouldn't. Like, really?
Mhm.
The only secret Sam ever had was that he loves Selena. That was the one thing he believed he'd take to the grave without saying. That is almost, it was almost like too mushy. I was like, really? Come
Yeah.
on. Come on, you're a guy. You could tell us something else. When he asks her for her deepest secret, she tells him, I'm a coward and I'm scared. I'm scared all the time, always.
I had the same thought as you, where I was like, is that your biggest secret? Like, no other secrets you want to talk about?
I mean,
Because if you're going to bring it up, it's like she was asking to set up where she could tell him, but then she doesn't.
if you were to ask me my biggest secret right now, I honestly have no effing idea. Like, I'd be like, I
Mhm.
don't. I mean, to be fair, I'm not hiding anything really deep and dark, but like,
Well, remember that time I perioded on my boyfriend's couch when we had been dating that long, and I sneezed and I started my period, and things
Wow.
had shifted to the side. I'm like, is that a secret? I've already talked about the tampon in my butt. So I guess it's that.
I guess I now know my deepest secret that I will not share.
Oh, I know. Yeah, you're real high and mighty for your secret.
You know, but those
I know all of your secrets. One of them we were talking about before this, and it involves a necklace. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. Wow. One of our friends was here earlier with us, and she was like, remember that time Kate does not forget anything?
I
Like-
steel trap when it comes to other people's embarrassing moments.
Oh my
Because
God.
whatever happened, and I won't say what, afterwards you fell down the stairs.
Oh. Like, there's so many things I forgot about that night, but Kate
No,
comes in with the
I
detail,
remember it
and I'm
all.
like, wow,
I think about it all the time. It plays on
Oh.
loop.
we were young and dumb. That's all I've got for you guys. Oh my God.
But yes, you think in this moment that she is setting up to tell him her actual biggest secret.
I mean, I do also think that Selena being scared might be her biggest secret because it's important, but it's kind of general because there's a lot of things she could be scared about.
Yeah.
So she's not lying, but she's still not giving him the other truth.
It's tied to her other truth, but yeah,
She doesn't tell him why. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
it's not true. I was disappointed that she didn't give him a chance. with
Well,
that.
and I guess it had to happen just so that it could set her up to learn. Sam tells her that whenever he's scared, he tells himself, "My name is Sam Cortland and I will not be afraid." And that is a line that stays with Selena, a line that we hear her tell herself several times throughout the series, including her first date in Dovier. So I guess that's why.
I mean, it was a very important thing to say because after hearing him say that, when she gets to Endovier, it it hits different. It
It
makes
does.
so much more sense.
Well, and after reading Assassin's Blade, it hits different.
Yeah, going back with
Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight.
Oh my God, even with Lily, like I know it's a different storyline. I was thinking of
Oh.
Lahava when he was saying, I will not be afraid. And I
What
was
does
like,
she say? I have my friends with me and I will not be afraid.
yeah, but it's still the
Oh,
same, like, I
God.
will not be afraid.
Is there something like that in ACOTAR?
I don't know.
I don't know if there's like a you do not yield.
Yeah, which that's definitely
That's
also
kind of
in
Throne of
Throne of
Glass and
Glass.
ACOTAR, yeah.
There's some big lines that are said that like they just, especially once you know the circumstances, it hits different when you hear it.
Well, there's that one line about how Reese blows a load when he's thinking about his future child when Feyre like projects it into his mind. There's that important line. Do you remember that?
What?
Yeah, she like projects into his head what the bone carver showed her, which is their future child, and that's when he comes. And I think he like roars and shakes some mountains.
Ew.
And then people are dying, Kim. There are people
know,
outside of the
like,
tent dying.
The context, like I guess it's like their future together and that things will continue, but like,
Imagine your leg has just been amputated and you hear Reese roaring.
ew. Okay,
Come
well, I know
on.
we've just changed the scene, but I was like,
I'm sorry. Yeah, this is actually a really
This is a very-
sad scene.
it's very, very sweet, and it is a
Yes.
very important bonding moment for them. I don't mean to
Mhm.
take away from it. I wish she had told him more, but I guess that would have opened a whole new can of worms with questions, and it's
Yeah.
something that if they think they have all the time in the world, she can
Yeah,
discuss with him in
exactly.
future when they try to make future plans.
Everything about them is them thinking they have more time.
Ugh, that's probably the killer, is that they just think they have more time.
Yeah.
It hurts so much more knowing what's about to happen. The next day, Selena and Sam are a block away from Mr. Jane's house.
Rourke is an early riser, a 5 to 9 before his 9 to 5.
He takes the same black carriage everywhere, so it's easy to track and with no guards. Like,
Which is
why is
scary.
this not a red flag? This is so obvious, guys.
Well, it's scary that he's so confident and like, yeah, come for me.
also
you know?
that. Yeah.
And they're following him around, and one of his stops surprises Selena. Rourke is a reader. He goes into a bookstore and buys adventure novels, books that Selena herself has read, which would be like finding out that John Wayne Gacy was an ACOTAR fan or Ted Bundy wrote Hermione fanfic. You don't want to learn that monsters...
I don't want to have those levels of interest with you guys. Nope, you're a monster. You have to stay over there. Selena and Sam follow Rourke into the vault.
And they follow him inside, which, guys, we're being sneaky. He's going to notice two really attractive people in the vaults. People that he's also seen outside of his house because he smiled at them. He also saw them in the bookstore.
I immediately thought of, there's a GIF, and I think it's from Parks and Rec. Where they're like, don't be suspicious.
Don't be suspicious. That's
and
them.
they're like tiptoeing and like
Yes.
dancing through, I think it's a graveyard.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, that's literally immediately what I saw. I was like, oh, okay.
No, that's
Nobody's going to notice you
exactly
bitches
right.
for lunch. There's nobody here.
We're just here. We're lunching at the vaults.
With our hoods up, don't look at us. Rourke is sitting at a table with Helmson, which is the master of ceremonies of the fights.
I imagine he's the guy that's like, let's get ready to rumble. Woo! And then it's Sam, who works at the vault.
I don't know why they don't think he's going to know they're there if he wasn't already tipped off. There are also slaves, and Selena wonders if it's worse to end up here or in Dovier. And prostitutes. Many of the girls are sleeping in heaps on cots.
Rourke is the absolute fucking worst.
It's so gross, and she thinks to herself she'd love nothing more than to burn this place to ash.
And it's a little foreshadowing, both with Endovier, her talking about where it would be worse to end up, but also burning this place down.
Yep.
Yup.
Love that. Rourke inspects the girls, which
Disgusting.
is so gross, and Selena and Sam struggle not to react to the terror on their faces.
And we know that's especially triggering for Sam.
I mean, and it just goes to show like this guy is a creep and like a monster in so many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Then he snaps his fingers, and a shackled man, a fighter that's in debt, is dragged behind a curtain and down a stairwell. 5 minutes later, the screaming starts.
And that's a little foreshadowing for what ends up happening to Sam. It's just, I hate thinking about, because he talks about later on how the Gloriella wore off after like 6 hours, which is just, you're thinking, were you actually torturing him for that long?
Oh my god!
I don't even want to think about it. Selena and Sam walk to a park for their quick little minty bees, where they remind themselves that they aren't like Rourke. They might kill and they know how to torture, but they don't enjoy it.
Oh yeah, no, he was flaunting it. He was enjoying that way too much.
Mhm.
Selena thinks back to early days with Arabin, when he'd only brought in really bad people like rapists and murderers, and he'd had Selena read about the awful things that they had done until she wanted them to suffer.
Then he'd honed that anger into a weapon, and it's the same mental games he played with making her think that Benzo was pro-slavery, so then she was pro-killing him.
Yeah, it was easier for her to do the job.
He's been playing her this entire time.
But it's also a sign for herself that, she had to be amped into it. It's not like she's like Rourke and enjoys just torturing people.
Yeah.
There was a method behind the madness.
Mm-hmm.
While Sam will never be like Rourke, he'll also never be like her. She doesn't know if he's even aware just how dark she can be.
And things like that, I'm like, I don't think you're as dark as you think you are.
Yeah.
We've seen way worse. But they spend the rest of the afternoon stalking Rourke. He's probably well aware of them watching. Then Selena goes on to trail Mr. Jane on her own. They've decided the best time for Sam to take out Rourke is when he takes a carriage from the house tomorrow. Their reasoning being that he'll be tired after running errands, which he's a sadistic criminal. It's not me like at Target chugging a Starbucks and then shitting my brains out. He's not, we don't have the same level of tiredness after running errands. I don't think his errands are going to exhaust him because he went to go pick up a new adventure novel.
He has a 5 to 9 before his 9 to 5.
Yeah,
like this guy's got some stamina. I don't know if that's going to be enough.
It's just when it's such a large part of the plan, but he'll be tired after, and you're what?
I guess they're hoping that because it's just simple errands, they can catch him off guard.
I guess.
Maybe. I mean, in theory, Sam will only have to fire 4 arrows, 1 to disable the driver, 1 for the footman, and a double tap for Rourke. At least, which, again, I'm like, how did he get caught if you're a distance away firing an arrow?
I don't know.
At least Sam's
because they had to have known he was up on the roof the entire fucking time. They went and...
Unless they had people waiting for him. Like, yeah, how does that even happen?
We'll never... That's something, actually, that I don't know if I want to know, but I am curious.
Yeah. At least Sam's going to be wearing his new fit the Master Tinkerer from Melisande made for him. The one with the hidden daggers, and thanks to Selena, a piece of spider silk that covers his heart. And they have a dozen escape routes planned.
What could go wrong?
Right.
While Sam is doing all of this, Selena will be packing, which is so stupid. I understand her guilt, because looking back, you're like, I was just sitting there all night while this was happening. But she's packing because Sam bought them passage on a ship to the southern continent in 5 days.
Surprise, we're moving continents.
They had only talked about moving cities on this continent.
I mean, and I get why she's mad, because this is much bigger.
Yeah.
But also, I'm like...
I haven't researched, like, coffee shops, and do we speak the same language?
If you're on this continent, you can't get out from under Arobyn's thumb.
Right.
So, like, that also, I can see why he was like, we got to go somewhere. It turns into a big fight between Selena and Sam. Selena saying she doesn't want to beg some other guild to join. I mean, okay. And Sam asking if it's really about her pride or the distance.
I think it's both. I'm kind of on Selena's side here. It was a really big choice to make without even consulting her. Moving to Belhaven or Aniel is very different than moving to a whole ass continent, but I also get Sam's point.
Yeah. I mean, it is a big move the first time you're truly leaving and not planning to come back. I do understand that, but Belhaven and Aniel, you're probably not going to be able to set up your own guild.
No.
Because you're still on the same continent with Arobyn.
Yeah.
And if he's the king of the assassins on this continent, it's almost a little small of her to think they could just go this little distance.
And Sam has a good reason.
I can see both sides of it, but I don't like to have things sprung on me. I have to think it through.
Right.
So if you're like, hey, I've already bought this. We didn't talk it through. I've already done this. That would stress me out. Sam thinks it's really because Arobyn won't find them there, and maybe she's not ready for that, to completely cut ties with Arobyn. When Selena says her relationship with Arobyn is over, Sam asks if that's why she didn't tell him about the murder daddy jump scare.
Ooh, it's of course Arobyn sought out Sam to tell him about the visit because he knew that Selena wouldn't tell him about it. And he also tells Sam to ask Selena what really happened before Arobyn found her half dead on the riverbank when she was a child. And to Sam's credit, he told Arobyn he doesn't care. This little plan to drive a wedge between them is not going to work. And that's why Sam walked straight to the docks and found the first ship off the continent. So then you're like, okay, I get it.
I do get it. It's just, Sam was like, we have got to get out of here. There's no more dithering about this. It is not safe.
No more dithering? No more dithering.
That's the first word that came to me.
Mr. J, no more dithering.
I give up. Sam says that when Selena's ready, she'll tell him about her past. And when that day comes, he'll be honored that she trusts him
Oh,
enough to do so. But until then, it's not his business. Like, wow.
that's
Okay,
so
thank you.
sweet. Because I'd be like, tell me.
I was like,
What?
I'm so
Tell me.
nosy. I'd be like, okay, but I really need to know. And if they get to the southern continent and it sucks, they'll keep moving until they find their Barbie dream home.
She tries his little trick and says, my name is Selena Sardathian and I will not be afraid, while envisioning her future with Sam.
The next night, Selena's trying to distract herself with some smut.
She could or should be distracting herself with packing, and she really doesn't know why she hasn't started, which I think there's some psychology there. But her thoughts keep going back to Sam and what he's doing. Normally, she'd probably just go check in, but she promised Sam he could do it on his own, which is so stupid. This whole thing is so stupid.
I know. And I get it though. I would totally be her because I would want to. I'm just so type A. I'd want to just double check
Like,
that
let me just
everything's
go
okay.
check.
But if he caught me double checking, he'd be so mad, and I want to give him a chance.
Yeah.
That promise expires at midnight, however, but Selena heads out at like 11 p.m. because Sam should have been back by now. She starts running for Mr. Jane's house the way that she ran to the warehouse when Kale was kidnapped, the way that she was running back to the glass castle for Nehemia.
There are no obvious signs of something having happened. The house is quiet, which is a red flag in and of itself. She wonders if Sam had to change plans, like maybe Rourke didn't leave the house that night, even though he does every night, or like something happened. So she starts racing back home thinking, maybe I just missed Sam. Maybe he's back at home.
Oh, I can feel her anxiety.
Yeah.
It makes me so sad. But Sam isn't at the apartment, and the clock on the mantle reads 1 a.m., then 2, then 4 a.m. Then as the sun comes up, she races back through the city looking for him.
And at noon, she returns to the apartment to find Arabin Hamill once again sitting on her couch. He tells her he's sorry. They thought that Sam was still living at the keep and left him there as a message. She throws and breaks the clock, which is really poetic because Selena and Sam's time was cut short.
Ooh.
And that dream, the future that they were planning, is never going to happen.
Oh, I hadn't even thought about the time being
I'm
cut short.
very deep.
That was a good what's the word I'm looking for?
Well, you're not deep, so you wouldn't know the word,
I know.
would you?
You really called that. Even though Arabin tells her that she won't want to, Selena demands to see Sam's body.
I'm not sure I want to. I mean, maybe like put a sheet and like let me identify his face, but I don't think I want to see that.
I mean, I'm sure it'd be traumatic, but like my anxiety is like, I need to make sure this actually happened and
Yeah.
you're not lying to me. So they walk back to the keep and down the stairs to the mortuary.
The whole time, Selena is telling herself this has to be a mistake, but when she enters the room, she doesn't know where to look first. Sam isn't just dead. He's clearly been tortured and mutilated. And more than what's on the outside, she's thinking Sam must have been in so much pain. He must have felt so much despair, just like thinking he's never going to see her again, about her at the apartment waiting for him, about feeling like he let her down. It's obviously not her fault, but while all of this was happening, she was just pacing the apartment. So like with Nehemia, she takes a lot of the blame onto herself because she's thinking, I should have been there. I could have done something. This is my fault.
Well, and back to that argument, she's thinking, I really should have forced the issue.
Yes.
I should have made sure it was both of us, but she wasn't to know, and she was trying so hard to respect his wishes. It's just so sad.
It is so sad.
Arabin tries to pull her away, but Selena lays beside Sam. He still smells like that cheap soap that she made him use. And then, of course, she feels guilty because she didn't want to share her lavender soap with him.
Right. And the lavender soap comes back up later. It's a subtle detail, but Selena letting someone use it later on in the story is so much more impactful if you know the history.
Yeah, sharing her fancy soaps is
Yeah.
a bigger, and I had no idea after reading the scenes that are to come.
Yeah. See, there are like just little things like that.
Like why
that can
it's
you
such a big deal now that she happily and actually hands over extra soap in the future scenes.
Yeah, you can skip Assassin's Blade and still understand the story, but there's so much more depth.
They're
with
like
Assassin's
they're
Blade.
just like the little callbacks that like mean so much more. There's also a strange musky scent all over Sam.
Selena wakes up. When I first read that, I
was
did
like,
not
I know,
know.
did she just get drugged? What happened?
Yeah, Selena wakes up back in her bed at the keep, and again, like with Nehemia, she stays in bed. She's not ready to face a world without someone she loved so deeply in it. Like if she ever leaves this bed, if she never leaves the bed, it isn't real. And Sarah writes trauma and grief, I think, better than anyone in the genre, because a lot of authors would have skipped this part, the part where Selena can't drag herself out of bed. And it's the same with a lot of her characters who go through depression. And she does the same with Nehemia, but this is a very realistic look at directly after when you really can't process it.
Yeah,
you don't immediately go
so
into
heavy.
like crying and making big dramatics and being angry. Like there's that time where you're just unable to process it.
It makes me think of, this is so random, but Grey's Anatomy is like my callback comfort TV show, but like Izzy's laying on the bathroom floor after.
Or when she's laying with Denny after it happens.
Yeah. She crawls on the bed next to Denny, but then she's also laying on the bathroom floor and she talks about how time feels like it's standing still. Like it's so much to
like
process.
A clock has been broken.
Yep. There it is.
There it is.
The time thing again. It's so poetic.
I know. So deep.
We aren't sure how much time has actually passed. I don't think Selena even knows, but she eventually hears men speaking outside of her door. Like,
girl, all the places in the keep and they're having an important meeting, conversation outside of your door.
I was like, when do they ever stand outside your door for these meetings? Like, what?
And she's blinded by grief and you know it's coming, but I was mentally screaming at her, girl. No.
I know she's not in her right mind. She's not even prepared to be suspicious of those around her because she's just so weighed down by it all. But yeah, even just hearing that, I was like, no, don't.
Yeah.
Harding in turn, those piece of shit assassins who held Sam while Arobynn beat Selena, say that they're going to go after Mr. Jane and Rourke in 3 hours and literally share their entire plan.
It's not funny, but they're standing out and they're like, okay, so in 3 hours exactly, what time is it now? Everyone's watches in sync. Okay, in 3 hours.
I know.
Outside of like the entire keep, they're having this conversation in the hall.
Yeah, like they ever discuss business meetings in the hall. Like, come on. Arobynn then goes into her room, strokes his fingers through her hair and across her cheek, then closes and locks the door.
She assumes it's to keep her from joining them, but it's obviously a setup. Talking about the exact plans outside of her door and telling Selena not to do something, locking her up. Arobynn is playing her so well. Again, like he knew this would make her want to do it. What's one way to get Selena to do something? To tell her not to do it or to lock her up?
But can I also point out that someone changed her from the suit that she was wearing into a nightgown?
That grosses me out.
If there's
every
no
time.
women in the Assassin's Keep, who fucking touched me?
And then it's also, they clearly don't want her to be in that fancy little suit.
Yeah, because
New boot goofing with her.
All the weapons that she could have. There's several things right there that I'm like, ew. Also, hello. I mean, she has weapons that she hid when she still lived there. They're not the best, but they're something. She has some clothes, so she changes, braids her hair, which we in Dory know means business.
She's standing on
a little
business.
callback from Throne of Glass, and climbs out the window.
Wesley grabs her, begging her to use her head, kind of like we're doing. Wesley is the reader. He's begging her, and he begins to tell her that it's all just but she slams a pommel of her sword into his head before he can finish.
And this is why he doesn't like you.
This is why you were not friends.
Then she's running through the streets, sprinting toward Mr. Jane's house. Sorry. Just love that it's now become canon that his name is Mr. Jane. She's sprinting toward Mr. Jane's house, where Arobynn said both Mr. Jane and Rourke will be in their beds, and Harding said there was a window on the second floor they could leap into. I mean, that's so
I don't know
specific.
why I'm in such a silly, goofy mood when it comes to Mr. Jane, and why it has to be Mr. Jane.
Mr. Jane.
Again, all of this was conveniently said right outside of Selena's bedroom, and we're going to go over it this time. They'll be in their beds.
How
we should
do they
probably
know?
go through that second story window that'll probably be open, but you won't be able to tell what's going on in there.
I mean, how do they know that they're going to be in bed? How do they know all about this? She didn't see them scouting their schedules.
Right. You're the one that
She was out there,
following them around. I'm picturing them with like
dead?
little nightcaps and they're in their little twin beds, but why
Like
would
sharing a room? Okay.
like
But
Bert
Mr.
Ernie?
Jane, like he would. Wow.
It's just so stupid. But in the window that she needs to go through, so she gets there and she's like, okay, I need to go through this window. Oh, it's open. That's perfect. And the curtains are drawn, blocking any view of what's going on inside.
No big deal.
It's 15 feet to the window with no more than 50 feet on the neighboring roof to get a running jump. My toxic trait is I was like, 15 feet. That doesn't feel that far. We'll have to test it.
I can't jump very high. So to me,
I've
that
never
seems
seen you
like
jump.
probably not going to happen. Well, I did that little that fake running in that video.
Oh
The
yeah, we
suspect
did one
video.
of the suspects.
That's the most jumping you're gonna get from me.
I got a lot of comments about being from Alabama just because I searched
'cause you wanna
certain
see
relatives.
The family getting together.
Oh, it's okay when it's Targaryens. Whatever. Hypocrites. And this running and jumping through a window moment is another that's mentioned in Crown of Midnight when Celaena is leaping through the warehouse to where Chaol's being kept.
I mean, she definitely pinpoints it. She does great. There's a lot of similarities between this night and that night.
Yeah, it gives more context to her state of mind during all of that. In Crown of Midnight, when Chaol is kidnapped and the rebels are keeping him there, and she even thinks at one point, doesn't she say that Sam and Chaol's faces are kind of blurring together when she's talking about, because this it's those situations because it's very similar, especially with her being kept occupied for something and something really bad happening at that moment.
I do remember in Throne of Glass, or is it Crown of Midnight?
I think it's Crown of Midnight.
Yes, because they're together by then. It is very triggering for her, and it takes her back to the issue, like to the everything that happened with Sam. So yeah, you're right.
And then all of that is compounded. It's her mental state in Heir of Fire, knowing not just like Sam, but everything that's happened up until that point. Why she's in her flop era at the beginning of Heir of Fire.
And I know we're going to continue this conversation. I'm trying to avoid it because all the things that happened. But as I was finishing up Assassin's Blade, I was like, wow. So by the time that we're hitting Heir of Fire, it's still only been like
we're not that far removed. Yeah.
Since Sam has died, a lot has happened.
And in that time, she's already lost other people that she loves.
It's overwhelming how much grief she's still carrying because it has not been very long. And she's still so young to go through all of this so fast. But anyways, back to this horrible scene. She jumps through the window into a room full of people, Mr. Jane and Rourke not in their beds, but sitting around a table surrounded by guards.
And she knows right away it was a trick, but she doesn't really have time to think about the implications of, okay, if it's a trick, who was behind it? She kind of, throughout the rest of this book, she's refusing to really think about it.
I know. And she knows better, but she's in denial.
But she just doesn't. And in this moment, she doesn't have time. But even
this
when
very
she
moment,
does,
she's trying to stay alive. But she doesn't have time to process why Mr. Jane looks shocked and Rourke looks amused.
She manages to kill Mr. Jane. R.I.P. Mr. Jane.
Sorry, Mr. Jane.
And she takes out a lot of his guards. But even more show up literally 10 seconds after she jumped through the window, almost like they were waiting.
Oh, they were definitely waiting. More guards rush in, and they and Rourke are wearing strange black masks. Smoke starts filling the room, and Celaena puts it together that this is what she smelled on Sam. I thought she had poisons training. I guess we found in Throne of Glass
we know that she's not great at poisons.
She tries to fight it, but breathing in the Gloriella smoke causes her to become disoriented, and the guards start landing blow after blow.
Celaena wakes sometime later, but she can't feel anything and she can't move. And that to me is more terrifying than anything of being trapped in your own body. And it's obvious this was a setup. Someone betrayed her, but Celaena refuses to even entertain that it was Arobynn, because for the next few days, she's waiting for Arobynn to save her, which is so sad.
I guess because it was Harding and Tern and other assassins talking outside her window, it's easier to be like, they did it. They were the ones saying, or talking outside of her door, rather than admitting that there's a greater mastermind behind all of this. Rourke tells her the Gloriella will wear off in about 6 hours, or at least that's how long it lasted on Sam.
I hate thinking about, 6 hours being tortured.
And then even longer. It is just another dig. It was
unnecessary. If you needed to get Sam out of the way, all of this was not necessary. And Celaena,
it's awful.
Celaena's panicked because she did see what Rourke did to Sam. But again, she's thinking Arobynn will be here any minute now because of that fake plan that she overheard. She thinks that he's on his way anyway. And thank God Rourke says that not touching Celaena was part of whatever bargain, because I can only imagine what the sick fuck would do to a woman. We know what he did to Sam.
And as I was reading this, I am happy he didn't do anything perverse and nasty with touching her. But I feel like maybe it's Crown of Midnight, I feel like she kind of hinted that she had been touched.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've forgotten the exact context now, but something about with the Gloriella in the past, it's just the way that she she's
she's desperate to get back to Chaol because she needs.
it was like just the way something was phrased. Like
Okay.
nothing is outright stated,
Yeah.
but it made it seem like a little something may have happened.
Yeah. I
And
mean, it's very possible. He
I'd
just
have
didn't
to
do
go
anything.
back and like reread it, but like it's not discussed here, which
Thank God.
hopefully nothing really happened. I would be grateful it didn't. It just when I was kind of expecting to hear something a little
Yeah.
dirty after reading the story, and I had different expectations,
Yeah.
but I'm not mad. I'm more than happy that it didn't. The bargain or plan, by the way, was to kill Sam. Selena kills Mr. Jane. Rourke takes over as a crime lord, and Selena is handed over to the king. She can't talk, so she can't ask him who set all this up.
And Wesley did try to warn her. Wesley, who loved Sam, whose face had been filled with grief and rage, not directed at Selena, but at someone else. She wonders if Arobynn sent Wesley to warn her. Girl, stop being so delusional. Because she can't even think about the alternative. But come on.
I understand why she can't, and it's
Because
just so much.
it's unfathomable. It's unthinkable to do that. I mean, yes, Arobynn raised her, but he also raised Sam from a very young age.
Yeah. And I mean, he knew Sam's mom. Like, there's so much to it that, like, I understand for her why it's unfathomable.
Have you ever wondered if Arobynn was actually Sam's father? Because he talks about how it was one of Arobynn's favorite
Oh my God.
courtesans. Is that why he took him in?
Oh, I don't know. Oh my God.
I don't know. I have
blown with
I
that
know.
thought.
I have no evidence of that. I just was wondering why they made the connection of it being
I mean,
Arobynn's
he's clearly
courtesan.
a shit father.
Yeah.
But like, ooh,
that would
gross.
be crazy.
I hope not, because he's awful. Wow.
I don't even think they're like described physically similar, but
No, they're not.
it's
But
just
like,
weird.
that would be shocking. Well, as she's having this moment, 3 men enter the room. 3 mean. Really putting the emphasis on there. It's 3 men enter the room, and it's 3 men that she's seen before, but she can't recall quite where. And I immediately was like, oh my God, weren't they outside of Arobynn's office?
Yep, 3 men. Maybe like the 3 men that she passed as she was leaving Arobynn's office
I mean,
after
do you
she
think he
paid
wanted her to
Sam's
think
debts.
about that later?
I don't know, but we're the Otterland's assassin. Aren't we supposed to be really good at details?
Yeah, shouldn't you be paying close? Oh God.
I never forget a man.
Oh, okay.
I would be like, oh, you're that guy.
Oh, I remember you.
You're one of those mean.
mean. Good Lord. One of the men hits Selena with the pommel of his sword, and she wakes knowing 3 things.
Sarah loves that, and I'm just now putting it together that she loves that phrase. It's 3 very different things than the 3 things that Rune knew, but it's also, she used it in Crown of Midnight for Selena. Like, I can't remember the exact things, but there was something about if you've harmed so much as a split end on Chaol's stupid head, then I'll kill you.
Yeah.
Like, that was one of the 3 things.
Yeah. The 3 things that she knows here are it's been at least 6 hours because she can wiggle her fingers and toes.
Which means it was almost a little bit of foreshadowing in the desert when Ansel used Gloriella to poison the Mute Master. It didn't take him 6 hours though.
No.
But anyway, they went new age and they made it into incense. So maybe it was a little more powerful.
Wow. The second thing she knows, because it's 6 hours have passed and Arobynn hasn't found her, she's either in the royal dungeon or she's in some hidden cell under Mr. Jane's house. And the third thing she knows, Sam is still dead.
She finds the answer to number 2 when she opens her eyes and she sees she is in the royal dungeons, a place that she's going to find herself again in Crown of Midnight. A guard brings dinner, meaning she's been here for an entire day, and Arobynn still hasn't come for her, despite presumably seeing Wesley and knowing exactly where she went. But even if he knew where she was, no one really gets in or out of the royal dungeons, and we established that in the first, what was the name of the first one? The Assassin and the whatever.
And the Pirate Lord.
In the Pirate
The very
Lord.
beginning of Assassin's Blade.
Where they're talking about how Gregory, I can't remember, how did I remember that, not the other thing? That Gregory is in the royal dungeons, and
there's nothing they can do.
There's nothing they can do. The only plan is to kill them, like to poison their food or whatever.
Yeah. Maybe the Selena who outsmarted the Pirate Lord or stole an Asterian horse would fight or even care, but that girl died with Sam.
She overhears the guards gossiping about the captain, who we know is Chaol, and he is racing back to Rifthold. He is going to be furious that he missed the trial. But like Selena and Sam overheard in the tavern, he is gallivanting with the prince along the Syrian coast, probably touching each other's dicks at least once. You cannot tell me that Chaol and Dorian have not touched dicks, like the tips touch together.
I mean, even if they...
All men friends do that. Why won't they tell us about it? There's no way.
You guys should definitely share about this more often. Even if it wasn't them alone, they shared a girl at least once and this came up.
Had to.
We just shared the story just once.
And we've talked about the Bat Boys having sex in the same room a lot. If we're going to talk about novellas that we want.
Oh my God.
I want that. I
would lose my mind.
Well, and a certain character we're about to meet in Heir of Fire, I want a little bit of his stories.
Oh yeah. There's... Mm-hmm.
Same page.
Got it. So after 2 days in the dungeons, she's taken to the King of Otterlin, who, like the guards, is shocked by her age.
A long list of charges are read thanks to Arobynn always taking out billboards about her kills for marketing and branding purposes. So the very thing that earned her the title Otterlin's Assassin is now her undoing, because they have a very detailed list of everything she's done.
I'm kind of surprised by this also, because when they say the Assassin's Guild, I'm assuming this is a known guild in the city. So
but I do know that the keep is hidden, because they talk about how...
Well, you wouldn't want competitors to find you, but at the same time, it would seem like if it's a guild, then it's an accepted... I don't know.
I don't think it is, though, because when they talk about how they can't send someone to go get Ben's body, they're scared that the guards would follow them back to the keep. So it's still hidden in some ways. But yeah, the existence is known.
And I guess I had a moment where I'd overlapped this with other series I've read where it is a guild.
Yeah.
The city knows it. You're not in trouble if you're doing it as a paid job or something.
It's not like the Freemasons.
So I'm like, oh shit, she's been doing all that, and he's been training her. Arabynn's been training her for all this so that it could be held against her in the future.
Exactly.
That's wow. That's actually really awful. When Celaena doesn't respond, the king demands that she look at him.
Which is interesting, because it was always pointed out how she didn't look at him directly in Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight, because her very distinctive poem-inspiring eyes.
She describes his eyes as black and poised to devour the world.
Interesting, black eyes. Looking at him, she's reminded of Terrasen 9 years ago, when the king and his armies wiped out all traces of magic and conquered the continent. The memories piss her off. She's triggered enough to finally respond, and she says, I do, because they're getting married.
Or I do, accept responsibility of the very long murder list.
She tells him to make it quick, more a challenge than a plea. But she's not getting a quick or easy death. Instead, the king surprises everyone who has not read Throne of Glass, and he sentenced Celaena to the Endovier salt mines with orders to keep her alive as long as possible.
Which explains why she wasn't executed during or after that failed escape attempt.
So now we're back at the opening of the story. Celaena is in a prison wagon on the way to Endovier. She passes through the city. She goes by the Royal Theater that she loves so much. She goes by the keep where Sam's body still lies. And that's a really big thing to her, is not being able to bury him. Because she never got that closure with Sam. She never got to really say goodbye. And that is something that comes up later in the story. Someone kind of helps her with that. And I love that so much.
When reading that scene, though, with the king, I wonder if she was meant to be executed until she challenged him. Because there's no way that Arobynn could pull so many strings that the king is like, nah, she can go to the salt mines.
She was supposed to go to the butchering block, and that's when he was going to save her.
So, her attitude actually worked out this time.
Yeah.
Also, as she's in that wagon going through the city, she passes by one of the roofs, and Arobynn and Hamel. Good Lord, Ellen. One of the...
You're saying Arobynn and Hamel were there? Where was Mr. Jane?
I just got too excited, okay? On one of the roofs that she passes by in the wagon stand Arobynn, Hamel, and Rourke Farren.
It's the same roof that they'd run into each other. Rourke on his way to spy on some poor mistress of Mr. Jane's. And Arobynn, Rourke never really found out why he was sneaking around the roofs of Rifthold in the middle of the night. And we don't really find out either. Unless he was just being a creep.
I guess maybe he works occasionally too. I don't know. Or just keeping an eye on everybody.
I guess.
Ugh.
I picture it's very Batman.
Well, because he's kind of like a spy master. He might be taking out hits, but he's got to know what's going on at all times everywhere.
Yeah.
Rourke comments how surprising it is that Celaena is being sent to Endovier. Bestie, it definitely messes up your grand rescue from the butchering block plan.
When asked if he's going to go after the prison G-Wagon, Arobynn says, obviously not. Even if attacking a prison wagon seems a lot safer than his original plans to save her from the butchering block. So Rourke, he points that out but we don't really find out Arobyn's motivations yet, unless it was just to break Celaena down even more so he could be her savior when she's like completely broken after Endovir. I don't know. I don't really know.
Well, do we know he actually had plans to save her from the butchering
Yeah,
block?
because
Or did
Rourke
he just
says that.
did he just tell everybody he was planning to and then it
I
didn't work
don't
out?
know. I don't know what his plan was with her going to Endovir. I do vaguely remember something in Throne of Glass, her thinking that Arobyn had paid off some guards to maybe like,
Not rape her.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, that's what I was trying to think of. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe he protected her in there, but I think he also wanted her to be punished a little bit more because he's a sadist.
Well, and Arobyn obviously didn't see the prince taking Celaena to the castle for the tournament twist coming. So he definitely didn't know how things were going to turn out. So I guess, yeah, maybe he was just going to save her from Endovir, which seems like it would be really hard.
But he wanted to make sure she felt beat down a lot
Yes.
first. Like he was taking his time if he was going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
When Rourke asks why Arobyn did it, Arobyn simply says, "I don't like sharing my belongings."
Like we see in Throne of Glass, the journey between Rifthold and Endovir is 2 weeks long and takes you through Oakwald Forest. She looks out of the wagon and she sees a white stag with antlers seeming to glow in the moonlight. And this stag, seeing her, comes up when she meets a certain character in Heir of Fire, too.
The stag's head turns slightly to the wagon, and Celaena recalls the story that she told Ansel in the desert about the Lord of the North, a constellation that guides the people of Terrasen home and reminds them that no matter where they are, Terrasen is forever with them.
Any stags being alive is very unexpected after the king ordered them all killed 9 years ago. It's even less likely that one survived and that it's so deep in Alderlan. It's just it's meaningful because it shouldn't be happening randomly.
Yes. When she hears the groan of a bowstring being pulled back, Celaena yells at the stag to run. And when she backs from the window, she's no longer numb. She can feel all the physical pain and the hole left by Sam's death.
Assassin's Blade ends with Celaena not ready. She's not ready for Endovir. She's not ready for a life without Sam. Trembling and holding back a sob, a breeze brings her the scent of pine and snow, a northern breeze from Terrasen.
Hearing the screaming and the cracks of whips, she stands and says, "My name is Celaena Sardothian, and I will not be afraid."
And that is the end of Assassin's Blade. What did you think as a first-time Assassin's Blade reader? Do you think that did anything surprise you, or did it make you see any events or characters later on? Did you see anything in a different light?
Well, I mentioned this in earlier episodes. I didn't realize that she and Sam were not together for very long.
Mm-hmm.
I had thought that they were like...
Yeah, that it was an enemies to lovers
Yeah,
on
I didn't
their
realize
part.
it was kind of that bit.
And enemies
so...
to blowing each other.
So that was a bit of a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
I am glad that we read it together because
I love when we do things together.
So many things. I've read this series multiple times and I've never
Mm-hmm.
gone back and reread Assassin's Blade because I was like, well, that's the beginning. I already know how things are
Yeah,
going to go.
it is hard if you don't want to go backwards. You're like, well, I already know the story.
Yeah, but
and
I'm glad
but
we like talked through it. I'm glad that I did it on the podcast so that we
Mhm.
could rehash my feelings as I experienced them the first time through.
Uh-huh.
But I also this is going to sound mean, but
Uh-oh.
is Celaena really good at her job?
That is
Everywhere she goes, she's like, "I'm Adolin's assassin. I'm the best." And it's just like this air of attitude. And I was like,
Mhm.
really? Because every single situation we saw you in,
you
somebody
get caught.
Yeah, somebody
Every time
snuck
she's
up on
sneaking,
you.
she gets caught.
Like, are you really that good? I mean, in Throne of Glass, she showed real talent, was like great and everything. But I was
Uh-huh.
like, people can sneak up on you.
Mm-hmm.
You have not bested anybody in any of the fights. Like
No.
Rolf, you literally were almost really screwed.
Yeah.
You were definitely really screwed with Rourke.
Mm-hmm.
It just, I don't know.
Yeah, it does make you question how much of that was just kind of like branding.
Like bravado, or like you
Yeah.
were told to think that. But
Mhm.
that was the only thing is that I expected in hearing about her training. Yes, she won over the Mute Master, and I think that there was a lot of growth that she had, but I don't know that I saw she was really the best.
Yeah.
And everything. But otherwise, I really enjoyed reading the series.
Well, and I remember the first time I read, I was very surprised with all of like the little Easter eggs and the connections and the characters that we met. I mean, she'll meet characters later on and it's obvious there's a history there, but we never knew the context of how. Like obviously the biggest one being her relationship with Sam, how it affects her decisions in Crown of Midnight and Throne of Glass, obviously, and her overall mental state going into Heir of Fire.
Yeah.
Same with Arabin and Lysandra. We knew there was a relationship there, but we see so much more. And there's Rolf, the pirate lord in Skulls Bay. We'll see him again. Irene Towers, who Selena sent off on a healing scholarship. Ansel, Elias, Wesley, the merchant in the Red Desert with the spider silk. The fact that she met Dorian and Chaol at a party and where she gets the whole "I will not be afraid," that hits different once you know
I know. And I
the
mean,
story behind it.
it was exciting. Honestly, like I knew characters that we would see because I've read further and I've always
Yeah.
read the books. So like it's exciting to see where they first met. And that was really fun to read. But that whole "I will not be afraid," I had no idea she got that from Sam.
Yeah.
So that was like, that kind of hit me in the feels. And of course, there's smaller connections like the lavender soap, her special soap, the background and importance of the apartment that she eventually leaves to Chaol.
That's huge that she was going to leave that to Chaol, knowing what that meant to her. And
yeah, because it's her place. It's also her safe place with Sam. So she's going to leave it to Chaol. Like that's
huge.
a lot of, even though she's already mad at you and you've already broken up, like that is very meaningful that she entrusted it to you. And obviously, we know Arabin was awful, but we see just how manipulative and cruel he was. And you see, poor Selena, she's so young. She's still so in need of that love and approval.
But she doesn't really have options.
Yeah, though that Selena really didn't have options, which puts the other characters, the way that they judge her as Adolin's assassin, it puts it into a new perspective.
Yeah, later on, we're going to meet some characters who are very judgy of like, where were you when we were trying to reinstate everybody at Terrasen? And they're going based on like her PR and marketing of this Adolin's assassin. Like she owned Rifthold and could do whatever she wanted to do, and she couldn't. You see in Assassin's Blade how in control Arabin was of her.
Yeah, but also she was a child.
Yeah, she was exactly.
This is the conversation we'll continue to have as the books progress, because there's everybody, once she accepts who she really is, obviously there's going to be PR and people are going to have opinions about it. And some of their opinions I don't think make sense.
Well, and so my final question for Assassin's Blade is, do you think that we have romanticized Selena and Sam's relationship because it was cut short? Do you think that they would have even stayed together long term? We just will never know what would have really happened with Selena. And Sam never knew the real Selena.
I do not think that we romanticized their relationship. I think their feelings and their love for each other was very real, very genuine, very honest. However, I do not think if Sam had lived, they could have stayed together long, because like with Chaol, she wasn't honest about who she is.
Yes.
And I don't think Sam would have cared, but she's not honest with herself yet. Like she is not prepared for like full, true, deep love. You have to be open with everything, and she's not.
Love is patient or whatever.
Yeah, I know. It's not like she doesn't care about Sam. She's just not ready to like embrace all aspects of herself yet.
Yeah.
So I think that there would have been problems with that eventually, not because they don't love each other, but because she's not mentally there yet.
Right.
It's very sweet though. It was young love, and same with Dorian, the sweet puppy love. And I know they were assassins, so like they're not technically innocent, but their love was innocent, naive, and honest.
It was very sweet, and like you were saying, she wasn't herself with Sam, and she wasn't really herself with Dorian and Chaol.
Yeah, I mean there was a connection. There was definitely a bond with Selena and Sam. And I think Sam wholeheartedly trusted her. And I think she trusted Sam, but I don't think she fully trusted herself.
No, that's a good point.
It goes back to, I don't think it's really any issue that was between the two of them. I think Selena was, I mean, she wasn't Aelin yet, you know, so it wasn't Sam. It had nothing to do with Sam. It was the timing.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to discount that. I think they had a really great bond. And I think it was very sweet and very sad the way it ended way too soon.
And a lot of it was a trauma bond between them because they were both raised by Arabin.
Yeah, they have a lot of the shared background and shared upbringing.
So I think we as a fandom kind of mourn the loss of possibility as much as we mourn Sam as a person, because we never even got his POV. Like, we don't know Sam that well. We don't know that much about Sam other than he loves Selena.
Yeah, I was gonna say all those years loving her and her like hating him.
Yeah.
We don't know all the things that he had to go through and deal with Arabin.
But and like we've said a million times, with Sam, with Dorian, with Chaol, when she pictured the future, she was always running from who she really is. She needed someone to push her to face herself, maybe punch her in the face to face herself, to become what she's meant to be, so she'll stop running.
And, perhaps we're going to meet that person in Heir of Fire, which we're starting next week with chapters 1 through 8.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye, guys.